So, hello everyone. Seats are filling up. I'm waiting just for a few more seconds until a few more people had the chance to join in. Hello, hello. Welcome.
Hello.
To all participants. Hello. So, yes. So, in respect of those people who have been on time, let's start on time at 10:30. Hello, my name is Magnus. I'm the sales director at Mindfuel. I'm in the data and AI business for more than 10 years now, and I'm also the host and moderator of today's webinar. For those people who don't know Mindfuel, we are a data product management company that helps data teams and companies to generate value from their data initiatives. And within this webinar series, we are sharing not only theoretical, but also practical insights around the value generation from data. Today, we have a very practical focus. And for that, let me introduce the two participants that are also joining the webinar today. I have brought Dr. Michael Engel from Cornelsen and also our Chief Product Officer, Maximilian Königs from Mindfuel. And Michael, do you want to make a short introduction about yourself, as you are probably also the protagonist of today's webinar?
Yeah, I will do it. Thank you very much for the invitation. I have to share, I'm a bit humbled by the announcement of the things I have to be an expert in. I'm also constantly learning, but I have some experiences to share from my current role. I'm currently the head of AI at Cornelsen. However, my background is economics, and I came to the AI world via the data science pathway. So I'm not a software engineer, but an economist by training. And since many years, I focus on making data and AI valuable, useful. So I'm not deep anymore into developing, but more in finding the best use cases and making it pay off. That's my core mission for several years, and I joined Cornelsen 3 years ago.
Cool, thank you. Max, you want to continue?
Yes, thanks for having me. And Michael, super cool that you could join us today with first-hand insights for what a great AI leader brings in their tool. But I think people joining are very much interested in really seeing what are first steps to become actually an AI-driven company, which I know you are on this journey. For myself, I'm one of the co-founders of Mindfuel and the CPO of Delight, our SaaS for data product managers out there, trying really to bring value from data to the organizations. And I've been starting my career in product management, and I think the product management things I really brought to the data community and to the data world because I realized with Nadim, my co-founder, that somehow we all need to think in really products and we need to bring value to our customers, might it be internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. So the whole management around products is a very valuable thing for the data world. So, and yeah, that's what we try to bring into the data community. So that's for myself.
Cool, thank you, Max. So focusing on today's title of the webinar, Navigating the AI Chaos, Best Practices from a Strategic Leadership Perspective. Before we delve into that, Michael, you're working at Cornelsen, maybe to, let's say, as a little bit as a warm-up session, could you maybe provide us a little bit of an insight on what Cornelsen is actually doing? So, I've been at grammar school in Germany. I know Cornelsen from my English books at school.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can give us a short introduction and maybe then also how far is actually data and AI, let's say, addressing Cornelsen and challenging Cornelsen?
Yeah, of course. So Cornelsen is a leading provider of educational media in the German-speaking countries. So chances are high that when you went to school in Germany, there's a 93% chance that you were using at least one of our learning products. And there's a 75-year history of the company, starting with the founder Franz Cornelsen that believed that education is the most important investment into people. And this, let's say, purpose mindset is still the DNA of the company. We started from textbooks and printed workbooks and expanded over experimentation toolkits and so on and so forth up to digital platforms. And now, let's say, stepping into the world of AI and making that useful for teachers and students. Cornelsen is based in Berlin, but it's a small group of companies having about 1,600 employees, mainly operating in the German-speaking countries, as I said. Yeah, and,
thank you. Yeah, I think it's just quite interesting to mention that we are not talking about like a super modern scale up, but we're talking more about a mature traditional company with mainly haptic and analog products in the knowledge space or in the information space at the end of the day. And I could imagine that AI, especially generative AI, can have a tremendous impact on it, on the business model, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It changes a lot because first and most important, it changes the opportunities we have to help our customers, better learning, easier teaching. And of course, our customers' expectations regarding our products also changed. So after experiencing the flexibility of ChatGPT, there are new expectations on how flexible learning content should become in the future. But it also has a big impact on our core value creation process, that is content creation and content production. And immediately it is clear that this is also very much impacted by generative AI. So it is full of opportunities and chances, but also comes with some form of pressure to transform how we operate internally.
And so understanding, let's say, both on the one hand, the challenges, but also on the same side, the opportunities. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on your position, but not only on your personal position, but also maybe how AI is set up, or let's say the topic of AI is set up within Cornelsen, and also to give us a little bit of a plastic, let's say, estimation, like what's your team size, how is your team structured, and so on and so forth.
Yes, of course. So I'm with the company for about 3 years, starting as the head of data and analytics. So more in a bit of a supporting department doing the classical analytics stuff. And we were experimenting with AI and had scattered POCs for a long time. But honestly, the technology push from generative AI led us to very much intensify our approach. And last summer, we decided to create a central AI unit, a central department reporting to the product officer. So high visibility, very much to the front end of the value chain, I would say. And I had the honor to take on this new role to lead this unit. And we started with a structure where we said we have the product innovation task, we have the process innovation task. So there should be teams focusing on those two user groups. And there's also platform building to enable all that and to build some core assets. So currently we are set up with 3 teams taking care of these 3 tasks. And depends on counting, currently around 20 people working full time on that.
And maybe one interesting thing to mention, I think also for the rest of the audience, so far as I've understood, you have a very hard, let's say, reporting criteria towards your chief product officer, if I understood it correctly. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that, because it might be interesting for one or the other, how you are actually measured at the end of the day.
Yes, we decided, and that is, I think it's a good decision to, let's say, invest strategically into AI. And that means that we are investing a lot of money, but also need to show the results back and even bring transparency into in what way do we also contribute to the financial position of the company in the future. So that means I am regularly in contact not only with the managing director I directly report to, but also to our CEO, and even sometimes the board of supervisors needs an update on how we operate. You could maybe compare it in the last year's digitalization unit that was also basically not a supporting part in IT, but was a centralized business unit to accelerate digital transformation. And this is comparable to what we do, but this is also the same visibility we have inside Cornelsen.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for your insights here, as far as you were able to share it with us. And I mean, what I understand is that your team has let's say, a significant size or a critical size, where also, let's say, a certain complexity arises. Then also in terms of collaboration, prioritization, and I mean, this is then also leads us also a little bit at let's say the core of this webinar today.
Yeah.
How are you actually managing this complexity in terms of, like, yeah, how do you collaborate? How do you organize? And how do you, let's say, yeah, in other words, ensure at the end of the day that the value is delivered? What are your approaches here?
Yeah. So we. I mean, it's not a secret that we use tools and frameworks that we also got from you or co-developed with you. And the inflow of ideas or prioritization is actually really what we call opportunities. And it is a broad set of stakeholders, as we have internal and external users. And there are also different types of value creation and different types of value capture. So creating a new product and seeking new forms of revenue. At the same time, looking at efficiencies in the processes and process speed up or cost reduction opportunities at the other hand. So there's a very broad portfolio of opportunities where we can use generative AI, and also a very broad set of stakeholders we need to orchestrate to get the user value correct, to get the business value correct, and so on. And that's why, yeah, we also turn to a portfolio management solution there to, let's say, keep an overview of all that.
And let's say, like, reflecting on I think, as far as I've understood, that your team is set up now for 12 months. So when you are now reflecting on the last 12 months, so what are your, let's say, key learnings, but also maybe your key failures you learn from it that you want to improve in the future, or what to also keep up because it showed it makes sense to do so?
Yeah, some key learnings were, I would say there are two important things. One is learn fast, so to iterate with a focus on users and the market. And I think we are quite good at that. So we created some solutions that people start to like and start to use. And the second one is to build some strategic assets. So to not only, let's say, create this thin, nice POCs and MVPs, but also build some substantial assets in our platform in forms of data or algorithms that we can use as a platform for further innovation. And this is something that we want to clearly double down on for the future, because the entry barriers in generative AI are so low that almost anyone can quickly create a nice looking POC or MVP or a small little product. But when it comes to ensuring quality, it's getting a bit more complicated, and you need to find new ways to collaborate with editing departments, manage data, and I mean, with data, I mean basically content, or to really stand out in the didactic quality of what comes out of the AI, and not being just a GPT wrapper, basically. Yeah, and
one question more. like to make it maybe also more specific for the audience, do you already have an outcome to share from the last 12 months? So in terms of any specific data product that you have been building and creating?
Absolutely. So we are super happy that we are now in the open beta of Cornelsen.ai. That is a product addressing teacher needs and tries to help them to save time with tedious tasks and preparing lessons and so on. Not yet focusing on students, as this is a bit more risky or has even higher quality demands. And this is currently public in an open beta phase, and we plan to turn it into a final product over the year. And we're super proud to be among the early innovators in that space.
Yeah, cool. Very interesting. So I can imagine that a lot of teachers are happy about that solution, and in the long term, that also pupils are getting excited about how to, well, probably they are anyways at the forefront of using generative AI without, but maybe then also have a respective product from Cornelsen in the long run. Yeah, cool. Well, so yeah, when it comes to maybe going back to managing all this complexity, you mentioned that you're using a tool or several tools.
Yeah.
When we're getting there, could you elaborate a little bit on your existing tool stack? What are you using, and what kind of tools you're working with in your daily work?
Yeah, we were an early adopter, I would say, of Delight as let's say portfolio management or data product management solution. And we are still in the process of optimizing our usage, but currently it's the, I would say, single point of truth for tactical and management oversight purposes. Our teams, of course, use classical tools like Jira for task planning and execution, but my view on where we stand and what we do is mapped into Delight. Especially because I don't like to create PowerPoint slides personally, and that's why I cannot push my team to create PowerPoint slides to keep us updated between the teams. I find this is a big waste of time, so that's why I love to adopt a software-based or SaaS-based solution for that.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, you mentioned Delight, our own data product management software. So thank you also once again for having the honor and the courage to adopt it as such an early stage. And yeah, lucky us that we have brought and invited Max today in this meeting. And yeah, so Max, how about you? What can you add to Michael, and how far do you have any further questions also to Michael when it comes to Delight and his usage?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Magnus. Yeah, Michael, second part here is the AI Leaders Toolbox. And I start with an open question before delving maybe too much into Delight first, because you said something very interesting that might be very relevant for people listening in. You said you're coming from a world where you had scattered POCs, right? That's what you said in the beginning. So let me pick up on this. I say it always differently. And I think there's a big shift in, let's say, how data is treated at organizations. And I would love to hear your thoughts. I say the playground time is over. We all were, playing with sand the last 10 years. Now it's finally there to make those POCs successful. How do you see this shift in general? Do you appreciate the shift? Would you rather still be in the playground playing with sand? Or so what's your verdict on this movement, like really making data valuable for companies? I mean,
I can have a bit of a specific answer from the Cornelsen perspective, of course, and that is, let's say, what generative AI changed is that content became data and vice versa. So in the classical data management, we were distinguishing structured data like tabular data and analytics data and unstructured data like free text, images, and so on. And they were moving together, but now you could say it's basically the distinction doesn't really make sense. So for us, our content and content management became data and vice versa. And what we are now, what we now have to do is to, let's say, again, learn the data is a broad term. Almost anything can be called data or not called data. Not all of this data is important, and you even get lost when you do a boil the ocean or find thousands of POCs and thousands of areas in the company that are too local to really sum up and to really change something, to really have an impact on the company. And the key thing that we now try to do is, so considering data and even content as also now data or unstructured data, is to think backwards from the key, let's say, must-win battles or key spots along the value chain and identify the data that is needed, that we have to manage better to succeed in those strategic areas. And then allow us to forget a bit about managing all content and all data differently. And that's what I try to contribute, so that we find a good focus on data assets that have a clear mapping of business lineage towards the key mission and get those right first, get those under control first. That's the main thing that I try to change or want to see changed.
Okay, cool. Let me ask another question, Michael, and that's the following. So from what I have understood and what I have heard from what you are working on, looking also, I just posted your first AI-driven product in the chat as well. So for people who want to check it out, I mean, it's obvious that after 75 years of, let's say, this analog world, there has been parts of digitalization going on at Cornelsen, but let's say what's the current movement with generative AI, it's affecting the core business of what you do, right?
Absolutely.
So that most probably also triggered, let's say, a harder push from management to invest, correct?
Absolutely.
Would you have still any recommendations, and I can also share something that I've done in the past, to people who maybe don't feel that push yet because maybe management haven't yet understood that the core business is at data? I mean, being here in a small group of people, I think we underestimate the changes that are about to come, so they might be even bigger. But what would you recommend to people participating here, saying, hey, what can I do to foster this change? Also, maybe the core business is not yet immediately, obviously affected. Any advice here?
Yeah, I mean, the key is to connect or to think backwards from strategic goals and must-win battles of your company. And let's say if you work in a very, very large corporation, of course, it has to be one bigger unit or something like customer service that can also be big. But any kind of top management attention or willingness to invest also comes from the business strategy and the must-win battles of the business. And it is super hard to discover them purely bottom up from scattered POCs that you find. There's also this willingness, the coalition of the willing thing, where you engage some people that are interested in data and want to start something with you, but it's still too risky that this doesn't lead to a big investment, I think. So you need to grab a seat at the table. I got this from also from Nadim, I would say.
Yeah, but that brings me back to the initial question. So we have to move out of our playground and connect with business strategic goals, core business initiatives, right?
Absolutely. So it's not a technical challenge. It's a translation challenge from business opportunities or business risks, and thinking backwards to use cases and data that really make a change there. And that's the only way that you really can find the right language and interface with the top management.
Cool. Last question, which is more, again, in that category of open questions, because I do know one thing that you have decided, and I think would be interesting because many data teams might be challenged with this as well, is what about the good old BI world, dashboards and all those things, which maybe get just a fancy AI sticker again, I don't know, in many organizations, but I know that you have decided also maybe to separate those teams. Can you elaborate a little bit why you did this? Reasons behind. Maybe it helps the audience if they're facing similar challenges in that regard.
Yes. What led me, I have to share, I was inspired by a talk by Steve Jobs. There's an old video where he's talking at MIT, and he's referring to a book that said companies get more value out of computers and IT when they invest in operational productivity. So finding use cases that reduce the bottleneck in operational work. And most of dashboarding is addressing management productivity, so understanding the overall position or goals that are achieved well and not achieved well. But let's say if you are unlucky, you discover you have very clear data about that you're not doing well, but you don't have a way to change it. It's like going in a car, knowing exactly the speed, knowing exactly that you'll go towards the cliff, but you don't have a brake, right? So it's very good to have this data transparency about our processes, but it's also important to use data to change something about it. And maybe a bit of a wordy answer now, but we decided as generative AI is so core to some of our key processes and products that we want to really focus on changing the processes instead of describing how well or not well they work.
So kind of actively driving the change, then just saying afterwards what maybe went wrong, right? It's cool. Nice.
Sorry, Max. Only one comment in between. So towards the audience, if you have any questions towards Michael, Max, or myself, please don't hesitate to post your questions in the chat. We will have a dedicated Q&A session later on, where we then have also the time to answer your questions. So please feel free, put your questions in the chat, and so we can collect them already. Thank you.
Thanks, Magnus. Okay, moving on into the topic around AI leaders and their toolbox, Michael. I know you're a very humble guy. Maybe we start from this direction. If you think about your role, what you have done so far the last year, what is actually an AI leader? Let's start easy, because 2 years ago, I mean, the topic around chief AI officers, at least that's what you read in the reports in the US, is booming. I think this role wasn't there 2 years ago or 3-4 years ago. Maybe some organizations were very much forward-looking, but so what is an AI leader in your definition? I mean, you just have to describe yourself basically then.
Yeah. So the rationale behind creating such a central role is usually to emphasize the topic and to try to speed it up and consolidate it. So, I mean, people say AI is like the new electricity, and you also don't have a chief electricity officer. So it's clearly not about knowing everything about AI or providing everything that is related to AI, but it's about driving the change or driving the initiative forward. That's what I would say is the most important thing. And it like every type of change, it means dealing with frictions, overcoming hurdles, dealing with stakeholder conflicts that consume a lot of the time. So I would say it is not, of course, you need to have a very good understanding of the modern technical trends and feasibility to understand feasibility and to drive technical innovation. But the larger part, I would say, is, as I said, rallying up the troops, securing resources, communicating, and overcoming frictions. That's really, you have to deal with a lot of adversity. At least it feels like that. But that's just how work is, right? That's the only way to move forward, I would say. And that's how I see my role, or at least when I describe what I actually do, then.
So
that's the thing.
No, perfect, Michael. And I think what you also described is the typical role of a leader and manager, right? Like managing all of this. Is there any specific thing that makes an AI leader different, let's say, from your perspective? I mean, you touched maybe like change management already as a topic, so something in this regard.
Yeah, so I think comparing to a more mature management role or position, like head of IT, for example, we are currently less driven by stable operations and efficiency increase, but more about adopting the new technology and making it useful. So there's a lot of innovation-related tasks having to do with exploration, discovery, experimentation at the front end of the funnel, and in the back end, it's then driving change. So if we found a good use case and validated it, sometimes we need to productionize it together with classical IT to really roll it out. And this is also something where you have to change how things work. And I also would say that the speed of change and of innovation is also at the moment crazy. You cannot really plan for long time windows. So constant flexibility and adaptability is important because who knows what in half a year the next release of big models is able to do. So it's super hard to manage the long-term vision, but being super flexible in the setup and the roadmap. That's some things I would say. The question is to what you are comparing it. Are you comparing it to another data or AI leader or tech leader, or are you comparing it to any kind of manager? That's a bit maybe the question.
No, but I think you touched something in product management. There's like the product life cycle, right? If you look at this, there's what I always say is there's 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100. And these are three major phases in every product. What you're saying, if I got it right, currently you need to be strong in 0 to 1 because you need to test, you need to fail fast to see what's working and what doesn't work, right? You're not that much into let's operationalize everything we have already. But so an AI leader should have the strengths in the 0 to 1 phase, like from idea to a first thing, and then from 1 to 10, maybe also to really get customers iterate on the first version. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because of the immaturity of the topic and the fast progression of technology, right? Okay, cool. So looking into the AI chaos, that's the topic of today, right, Michael? And also moving a little bit into delight. So for the audience, I will post now a screenshot into the chat. If this works, let me see. Teams sometimes is, okay, really is not working. Interesting. I think you have to touch the exactly right area. Magnus, can you try this out?
Yes.
Why? That's coming.
There it
Sophia.
is. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you so much. So AI chaos, Michael, means also maybe what about let's define what we actually have and what we do. Can you elaborate on how Delight is helping you specifically when it comes to the classification of data products and how you use them, what they are for you in your context? That would be super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I just said, I try to not invest too much into a PowerPoint slide creation. That's why I often just use Delight as in the navigation pane of Delight to structure a discussion. As I said, there are so many different stakeholders that you need to orchestrate and work well together with. And it's very important to have a shared understanding on what level or layer we are talking at the moment. So if I talk to the board, I use the mission control, where I have the aggregated view on the number of use cases we pursue and the expected impact that we make with them in the current business year. If I talk to business owners that find opportunities and formulate opportunities with me, I go into the opportunity portfolio a bit below. But this is like saying external stakeholders that I consider as customers of the unit. And when it comes to the internal team and partners, it is still useful to discuss the layers of data products. We would say it's AI products, and where we find a classification in terms of do we create something that has an own user experience? So it is a tool. It could also be a off-the-shelf tool that we just buy and roll out, or is it something we create ourselves? That's what we call a smart product, internally and externally. And then when you go lower, the analytics products for us, it's the category of creating engines or algorithms or services that are headless, but that carry actually the functionality and quality that we want to use to differentiate our services from just off-the-shelf stuff. And then, of course, the next important thing, data and the fundamental infrastructure we need to build for that. And that's every framework, and this is a model, right? Every model is wrong, but some are useful. That's what the statistic people like. And I like the degree of complexity and compromise in this layered architecture, because it usually any kind of stakeholder can understand the idea of those layers. So the CEO understands it, and also a partner from IT understands it. And that's the common interface we use to have the right discussions.
Cool. So having the same language definitely helps to manage chaos or turn chaos into value. Michael, be honest. So how much, I mean, you just said it yourself. Everything. So every framework is wrong. I agree, because it's a simplification of reality, kind of, right? And should still harmonize understanding. How much did your team discuss with you those layers, saying, hey, yeah, maybe this is right. Why is this named in this direction? And how could you manage it? Because you framed it quite nicely to specifically the audience of management, that they have an understanding. Yeah. What about all your technical experts? They always also have opinions, right? What would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's sometimes difficult because the deliverables of the platform team, for example, you can model them at thousands layers of complexity, right? You could say it's just one big service, or you could say it's just 100 components. So it is still a kind of an art to model what you do into a, let's say, reduced complexity representation that can only be judged by, does it foster understanding and communication. There is no right or wrong. And yeah, what I usually, what I really like is, I don't know, I think we don't have a screenshot for that, but the business lineage is the connections and links between the assets at the different layers. They are very helpful in discussing lower level investments and mapping then the impact upwards into the business opportunities that carry financial value. Maybe if I can add that, so the only thing that can collect money is the opportunities. That's the only place where something has a clear financial benefit rating. All others things can only be rated by cost. So it is helpful to map that.
Okay, cool. As there is a question in the chat, and we will open the Q&A only officially in 12 minutes, but as we are as flexible as the AI leader we just have discussed, Michael, because it just fits. There's a question from Mado. How do you decide on buy or make decisions? Because you touched the topic, and does Delight actually help you with those decisions?
Yes, so the decision to make or buy for me is mostly classically informed from the perspective of how central is a capability to our core value proposition of the company. So, for example, let's say customer service automation is maybe a high value use case, but we are not differentiating. Cornelsen does not differentiate itself from other companies through customer service, but through quality of learning material. So there's this classical heuristic saying, is this an opportunity that is related to our core value process, or is it in a service or other support function located? And this is the most important guidance for make or buy at the tool level, at the smart products level. And the other is speed, quick win versus long-term value. So you can only create quick wins, let's say, with off-the-shelf tools, I think, in generative AI, because you have zero development time and can immediately start to monkey around with the tools. So and then you later decide what to insource. So how far do you go with off-the-shelf tools? And only when you notice here are some things we can only reach by starting to customize them more, then we insource the tool or the functionality.
So just to repeat, if I got it right, to confirm, Michael, you have a way of assessing opportunities that are coming from the organization, might it business, might be also ideas from your team, and there's a clear assessment of does it have a direct impact on the core business and leveraging this, or is it just anything in the organization that might need improvement, and that already gives you kind of a prioritization. And then also are those quick wins. So you have kind of an assessment process on opportunities. Is this right?
Yeah. You could even say that we attach every opportunity a business owner or main stakeholder, right? That's also a nice thing that the tool provides us with. And this is a very perfect heuristic, because if this is a product person or someone from the editing, so content creation department, it's very likely that we are going to make direction. If the person is from another department that has a supporting role in the company, it is likely that we might choose an off-the-shelf tool.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Let's go.
Yeah, maybe we should also throw in already another question that's coming from the audience, but I think it fits to the context of opportunities. There is a question from Franzi. How do you motivate the business side to discuss with you opportunities and their value? On LinkedIn, I often see that the business wants the data team to create value, but when they ask for help, the business leaves the room.
Yeah, the idea is to make the business the customer and make them formulate the opportunity. So let's face it, there's usually a company is structured into profit and cost centers. I think that's every company has that, at least in their internal accounting. And the profit centers are the only ones that can collect revenue. So you should never discuss an opportunity to increase revenues without those people on the table that actually own a profit center that actually gets revenue. If those people are not at the table and developing the hypothesis for the opportunity, I think you are out. Then you can create a bottom-up opportunity idea, but in the second step has to be to engage the business owner and validate if there's actually a value creation and value capture idea behind it that the business owner supports. So don't waste your time with bottom-up opportunity creation or estimating business values without the people with that I call skin in the game. Those people that actually their success depends on the financial performance. And when those people are not involved in estimating the opportunity, the data is basically wrong, I would say. And that's so I push very, very hard that the opportunities are owned by the correct person with skin in the game, having the responsibility and also the risk to create even not only customer but also financial value out of it.
Yeah, I personally think this is super interesting to prioritize value over, let's say, technical trends or technical new feasibilities, and also have this, let's say, decision competency and the risks, as you mentioned, involved in this early upfront opportunity definition and this, let's say, strong handshake between business and the respective data team. Yeah.
I need to add one hint that I discovered and that might be helpful. That is when you collect steering metrics or metrics that go with the opportunity to operationalize how to measure success, you have to have this mix of value creation metrics like user engagement or whatever, something that is actually used and creates value for users, And you need, in our case, I asked controlling to govern the metrics on cost types or revenue types. So to make sure that with the opportunity we have documented, where does success go, enter the profit and loss and financial performance of the company in the language of the controlling department, so that you really think through the full process of how the work translates over time into a financial impact, right? And I don't want to make it too complex. It's still a one-pager, but governing the metrics that are allowed to attach to opportunity with controlling really helps make people think through the entire value chain until the end.
Mm-hmm.
Just to add on this, maybe a quick addition from my side, Michael, and you can confirm or disconfirm. You know, it's so important to do this in a very early stage and make it explicit, also for a thing that we all underestimated in the past, which is the last phase of actually what we do, and it's called adoption.
Yeah.
So whatever we build, somebody need to adopt. And the complexity in data or AI often is that we are not driving adoption, but business does. So, and if we don't have the commitment in the first place, we hope for adoption, but there will be no adoption. So this first step is super important for the last step. And I think this is a learning that we have done in the past. And yeah, I think it's one of the biggest advice, that it's not just a formality in the beginning, but it helps you at the very end where stuff is failing and where people then say, yeah, but that was not clear what I have to do and why and so on. Would you agree? Or I mean, you are nodding, but what's your verdict?
No, I absolutely fully agree that is, you need to have this clear value creation hypothesis challenged with those people that are like users or responsible persons for driving the change. And this doesn't have to be hours or days, but it has to be at least a sanity check of that. And the same with the value capture. So if you do not double check your opportunity idea with the person that controls the budget in terms of cost savings or is responsible for a process when you go to time saving, and those people are not at the table, the data that you write in the opportunity is basically not validated, right? And don't pollute your opportunity portfolio with unvalidated data and make decisions on the data cannot be true or false because they describe the future. They can only be plausible, and it helps to have the people with skin in the game to help you make plausible estimates or plausible qualitative estimations.
Yeah, agreed. One last question to delight maybe before we move officially into Q&A, Magnus, which you then also will moderate. So everyone in the audience, if you have more questions, now is the time to prepare. Last question, Michael, in another direction, because we discussed a lot about value, opportunities, business. Yeah. Does it also help you with the team? What they do, what their work showcase in the organization, maybe in this direction would be also cool to hear.
So the value that or the way that I try to create some value for the team is visibility for people that do more technical tasks. And that is, for example, if someone builds an infrastructure component in our platform, then it's usually super hard for this person from the personality the person has usually when they create infrastructure, and also from the type of task they do, to become visible and to get attention for the work and at least beyond the own team. And what I then do is say you can become the owner of a product at one of the lower layers, like an infrastructure product could be orchestrating module that makes different types of LLMs accessible to use cases, right? Or makes it easier to switch them, and create this visible card in Delight, become the owner of it and report on the progress. And the cool thing is the person does not have to motivate bottom up what they're doing because they can rely on the business lineage. So the explicit linkage to the opportunities that we prioritized. That's, I mean, we're not 100% there, but I would say we are 60% there to make this fly, what I just described. And for me, it's a good way to help the more technical people be visible and understand the value they bring to the overall mission.
Thank you, Michael. 11:20, Magnus. Should we move officially to more Q&A questions?
Yes,
there are some.
we have two more unanswered questions. And yeah, to the audience, if you have further questions, now is the time to type them in, as Mark's already said. Yeah, well, Michael, there is one question from Felix Köbler. I mean, we touched it already a little bit, but how do you prioritize opportunities and communicate your decisions transparently with top management and teams?
Yeah, so what we do is we have, so this is a process, to be honest, that is constantly evolving. I mean, we are still in the first 8 to 10 months of setting up a unit and operating. So this is super iterative, but we do about monthly check-ins with the more senior business stakeholders, where I discuss the opportunities with them and if there are changes in the priorities or in the evaluations of them. I use the mission control with the aggregated value estimates to discuss the continuously updated business case, basically. So you start with some assumptions, what impact you can make also in financial terms, but they change over time because when an opportunity matures, you might have to adjust the values that you can attach to them. And then I use Delight just to have a continuously updated figure of where we stand. And finally, to check some form of, let's say, portfolio health, as there's also like a Kanban view where you can see the different phases or maturity degrees you're in. This is also good to check when we usually have too much in planning and execution at the same time and not enough fully finished. That's always the case. You start adopting new challenges before you have really finished and rolled out the old ones. That's also the Kanban view that I use to steer.
So you mean that within your portfolio, or let's say your Kanban view, your portfolio gets too thick in the middle.
Exactly.
Right?
And it happens. It always happens. This is something that we also now, let's say, Delight helped us to see it visible, make it more visible that it is the case. And it is easier now for me with this visualization to create the pressure, I would say, on external and internal members of our mission to cut off or deprioritize some stuff because we are then blocked by doing too much at the same time. And it is understandable that from this context that single opportunities or initiatives need to pause to get the first and most important ones through the full life cycle or the next phase.
Yeah, which is probably also a typical phenomenon, and the right thing that you have to do in this phenomenon is to focus to get things over the finish line, right?
Yeah.
All right. No, thank you. Thank you also for how you outline how Delight helps you to keep transparency from top management until the really operational and technical level, and just to keep an alignment across all the different, let's say, flight levels and levels of interests. When we are talking about, or let's say there is one more question to that. It's again from Francie.
Yeah.
Do you have some tips and tricks or also lessons learned on how to grab a seat at the table?
Yeah. And this brings me back to one of the initial statements. There's changing something is hard. It is work, or you need energy to bring something into to move something. It is. You're lucky if there's a trend in the market that brings a technology or something. When it is in Harvard Business Review, an article or some management literature, there's articles about a technology. It is a good window of opportunity to jump in, right? That's one thing. However, it still is super hard. And I think you, if you are not yet in a management position that gives you access to talk to senior leaders, getting that is quite of a challenge, I would say. And there's no other way than accepting the challenge in terms of putting extra work in speaking the right language. So speaking the language of strategic business goals and also monetary terms. To get the confidence and conviction to really convince people. And if you are challenged, so usually you get a slot to present an idea. So usually when you want to present something at a management meeting, the people will give you 10 minutes to talk about it, I would think. But then you might also get some very tough questions and have to be super convinced by what you do. And this is something that you need to build up inside, I would say. So it can definitely be done, but it is attached to creating the conviction in yourself, the will, so that you have the willpower to overcome the frictions and obstacles and setbacks that you have when you have to go a second or third time to really convince people. Listening to myself, it might sound a bit negative, but
no.
I want to be so transparent that most of the things are the easy, the hard, not so complicated stuff. It's putting work in, really coming to an own convinced or position, fighting for it, talking about it. It's basically not rocket science, but it's a lot of work and it's a lot of dealing with setbacks and that's cannot be reduced, I would say.
Michael, I have to share my personal favorite motto. Nothing looks easier than a realized idea. But only you know what happened until this. Afterwards, everything is clear, right? Because you don't see all this hard work. But I would, in that regard, I have one last future question for future Michael.
Yeah.
So you brought yourself into the position of creating AI chaos because that's where you started, because it was chaos. Now you are about to clean this up and building first products. Amazing. Thank you for sharing this journey. Who takes over Cornelsen? CPOs, because you have the products, or is the AI leader actually also taking over as an CAPO, Chief AI Powered Product Officer? So what's your vision of this role? I know it's early to ask, but I think it's interesting to see where, let's say, AI leaders are heading for in the future. And I mean, not you personally, maybe also there's a mission, but in general, you know what I mean, right? Like you are building full products actually now.
Yeah, that is really a very good question. Let me check who's in the call here. Now,
short answer is sufficient, also due to timing, Michael.
Yeah. So I don't know that. The only thing I know is that the impact of AI technology will be very big, but I don't know how the things will sort out. I hope that the AI leader position will go away, honestly, because after the change is done, we will settle in a new normal where AI is again one of the normal technologies. But it might be that another thing is then gone, like supply chain management or another thing that is replaced by it.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Perfect. In terms of timing, we have 1 minute left. Well, thank you once again, Michael, for your practical insight from a, let's say, German traditional mature company that is, I think, where it's more than obvious that you have both opportunities and threats coming or arise from AI. Thank you for your really practical insights, how you're addressing the topic, how you're managing it, and then also, of course, thanks for your insight, how Delight is helping you to manage all this complexity. And well, I have also something for our audience. If let's say the discussion has raised your interest in to get a better understanding of what Delight is actually capable of, how it looks like, how it feels, I have now the following offer for you. You have the chance to test and try Delight for 14 days for free. The only thing that you have to do is to visit our website. And when visiting on our website, there is a green button, try Delight for free. And then you will end up on this landing page where you just have to fill out the form, hit the submit button. The respective link will be shared in the chat of this webinar right now. And then you can start testing Delight for free already today. So get started now and get rid of your always outdated PowerPoint and Excel management solutions already today. Thank you for joining in. Thanks for listening, and see you at latest at our next episode of Data Product Management webinars. Thanks, and see you. Bye.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you guys very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Ciao.